aspects of military compliance, in addition to the asset identification, Dan, is also the shipping, military shipping label and shipment identification. So that when you make those end items, they go into the case or onto the pallet that then gets shipped out to the government, and the military shipping label requirement is being called out. And what's important to note is that, we know if we look at a military shipping label, we've got all these conforming barcodes such as the PDF 417, right. But also a growing need when shipping off to entities like the DLA, you have this requirement for RFID, which is a radio frequency chip that gets embedded inside the military shipping label. Talk to us about that and how that impacts the compliance obligation.
Well, before they receive the assets, they obviously have to be shipped, and a military shipping label or a MIL-STD-129 compliant label simply identifies all the items that are on the shipment. So when you have a contract and you have, let's say, 4 or 5 items, that military shipping label should be identifying all those items that are on, let's say, that pallet. And what happens is when those items are shipped and that pallet is received in, the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to scan that MIL-STD-129 shipping label, and then they're going to confirm, the receiving party is going to confirm what the label says versus what the original contract order was to see if there's a match. So if you ordered 5 ABC widgets, that military shipping label should tell them that, yep, that's exactly what's on this pallet. So there is sort of a check process from the label, which is identifying the shipment, versus what was originally on the contract to be sure that there's a match. Now, in terms of the RFID label, when that is also scanned, the whole military, the MIL-STD-129 shipping label, it's made up of a number of items, one key factor being the TCN, or what is referred to as the Transportation Control Number, which is simply the identifier of the shipment, usually made up of who the party is that's shipping the goods, as well as the Julian date, which is the shipping date of the item, as well as the number of shipments. That all has to match up, along with any UIIs that are also being marked on those assets. That's all made up in that PDF 417 barcode that you had mentioned earlier. But again, we're simply talking about the shipment itself. You can have one label on the pallet, you can have multiple items within that pallet, as opposed to your MIL-STD-130 IUID compliance labels where each asset is individually marked.
And I don't think I heard it, Dan, but can you speak to verification of the RFID tag, making sure that it's readable?
Yeah, that's a very important point, Peter. The barcode obviously has to meet compliance against MIL-STD-129, has to be readable, and the readability of that barcode has to identify, again, the items within that shipment. So if they go to scan that 129 shipping label and it's not readable or it's not in compliance, they're going to reject the shipment because they can't identify it. So very important on that end.
And I think the other thing to note there is that when you generate the military shipping labels with the embedded RFID, that RFID will in fact be verified in line as the labels are printed.
Correct.
And so that also creates part of the audit trail that says, yeah, we've got a readable tag, because when DLA receives it in, they want to make sure all of their equipment can read it. So the suppliers and those shipping have the obligation to make sure it's readable as well.
Correct.
So downstream.